Sheriff Creech, you're back. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. You and I connected over the legislative session, had a great conversation then. A lot of law enforcement things were happening over this legislative session. And come to find out in recent months, you guys in Payette County are working to expand or build a whole brand new jail. Which one?
We'll be building a whole new jail.
Building a whole new jail. Now, this is a little wild, okay, because understanding the problems that you're going through, which is why I absolutely wanted to get you on, the problems Payette County is experiencing with overcrowding of jails is quite literally one of the reasons I moved out of the state that shall not be named, because we had such high jail and prison populations, and over the horrendous time of the pandemic, when they were like, okay, 6 feet spacing, well, you can't really do that in a jail system. They were letting out violent and, other criminals and felons out back onto the street. And I knew this because I had a lot of friends in my jiu-jitsu community that were in law enforcement. And they were like, you would not believe what is happening. And it's like, how, like, what do you mean we can't hold people until trial? They're like, they're charged for rape, or they're charged for something else, like really bad, aggravated assault, or like breaking and entering. We cannot hold them until they get to trial because we just don't have space. So we just tell them, like, please come back later. That's similar to the situation that Payette County is finding itself in, which is why you're wanting to get a new jail. So please help me understand the history of your existing jail, why you guys feel you need another one, and what that means for everyone.
Yeah, the jail we have was originally built back in 1972, and it's really served us well. In 2000, it was expanded. So it was a 24-bed jail. They brought it up to where we can house 69 inmates now, but we're routinely holding up to 80 inmates in there. Like, it's most years it's about half the year that we're overpopulated in that jail. And part of the problem that we're seeing is that we have all this increase in crime, but we don't have a place to put these people. And so what we've also done is we've instituted pretrial release. And so people with lower level felonies, people with misdemeanors, stuff like that, we're just putting them out on pretrial release to like the tune of 300 to 400 people at a time out on pretrial release. And really, those people are people we used to hold in jail, and we used to have them in there for a period of time, maybe just for a few weeks or something while they're waiting for preliminary hearings and things like that. But now they get arrested, and the next day or the next court date, they're getting put out on pretrial release, and they're being released out.
And when you're saying felons, like, this is not like, hey, just one person shoplifting, not to downplay shoplifting, right? But right. Like, when you're talking low-level felons, these are serious crimes, and you're like, listen, man, you're back on the street in 24 hours.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. Like, a lot of these are people that are addicted to drugs and users. A lot of those people also do crimes like thefts and burglaries and stuff like that to support their habits. And we used to hold them in the jail for a couple of weeks, and it gave them time to detox. It gave them time to kind of separate. It gave some kind of punishment for the crime that they've been arrested for. But now we're just taking and kicking them back out again. They're right back out on the street again. And so a lot of times it doesn't feel like there's a lot of punishment, or, there might be some victims that are like, hey, that guy finally got arrested. And then it's like the next day I seen him out on the road again.
You are talking about increase of crimes. What, help me understand, what do you think is driving it? And what kind of, what is the increase of crimes that you guys are experiencing?
So when you look at just Idaho in general, sure, like, our population has just raised like, sure, crazy. And Payette County too, the increase in population we're seeing right now is really coming out of Ada County and Canyon County. As people from out of state are moving into these counties, the people who live here are moving out to my county. And they're just trying to get away from the growth and get out to where they can feel some fresh air, have a little bit of land, and not have their neighbors like right beside them. And as we're seeing that population growth, we're seeing that as well. But we also have an effect of, we're right across the river from Oregon, and Oregon has a whole different set of laws than Idaho does. And there's a whole lot of crime that happens over there, but their criminals are our criminals. Like, it's just a river that separates us. And so a lot of the people that we deal with, they deal with. And so what happens in Ontario, Oregon definitely affects what happens in Payette County, and vice versa as well. And so we're seeing a lot of that kind of crime go up. A lot of what we're housing nowadays is like people with like addiction issues, with trafficking. We're housing a lot of people with like mental illness. They'll get arrested on some kind of a crime. They get a mental illness, and then we have to hold them until we can get them to a hospital bed and stuff like that. And so the people we're housing are quite a bit different than what it used to be.
Sheriff Clifford ran a jail bond a couple years back, and I didn't realize this, but the men and women were housed, I believe, in the same facility. And obviously you gotta separate them, right? You can't have them in the same areas. Do you guys have problems with that as well? Because it was something that was causing a problem within the Ada County jail system as well.
Yeah, women is one of the most challenging types of inmates that we have. Our jail wasn't really built for housing women. We have one pod that we put them in. We can hold 14 women. And the women, back when the jail was expanded, women was in there for a lot lower level, like misdemeanor level crimes. They were in and out within a couple of days, but now they're all in there for felonies, and we're holding them for a long period of time, and there's not really the room for them. And so in that older part of the jail, the 1972 part, we use that for all the overflow inmates. So all the overflow women, anybody that needs any kind of protective custody, anybody with any kind of medical concerns, anybody that needs to be segregated in any way, all get to be in that old part of that jail. And there isn't enough cells there for all the people that need some kind of special housing. And it's really challenging. But when you look at where we house them at, there's one corridor. They're right in that corridor. So there's three units of men and one unit of women, and they're all in that one area. They're not really separated into a different section of the facility. They're all kind of housed in that same area.
Man, this is a lot. This is all a lot. When you talk about your jail being designed for 60-something people and you regularly have 80, that takes into account the pretrial release, right? So it's like, no. If we were holding people like we used to be holding people, we wouldn't be at 80. We'd be at like 110. Okay, and our jail is designed for 60-something. So it's literally that you're letting out low-level felons and others that you wouldn't have previously, that gets you down to the distilled, like hyper-violent, high-level felons, where you're still hanging out at 80 of them, 80-something, and you really should be at 60. Is that essentially an accurate representation of it?
Yeah, if we held all the people we used to hold, we'd be over 100 all the time. We just can't do that. Even at 80, we shouldn't be doing that either. But it's just like there's a certain level where you can't let these people out, and you have no more room, so you hold them. But we meet routinely with the prosecutors and the judges, and we go over the jail roster. So, like, you get arrested and you come in, and then you go to your arraignment, and the decision's made that you're going to be held on bond, and we keep you. And then at some point down the road, it's like we're getting full. We'll sit back down with the prosecutor and the judges again and relook at the list and say, are any of these people that we want to reconsider? Maybe we don't want to hold them. And there's people, like, for my jail administration, that will be like, these are non-negotiables. Like, we think these people need to be in jail, and the prosecutors have their list and the judges have their list of people that are like, these are people that need to be in jail. But there's others. And then we'll go back down through the others and we'll say, yeah, this one's been pretty good in jail. We haven't had any issues, and yeah, maybe we can kick them out on pretrial release. And so even after that initial decision, we often go back through the list again and relook and try to reduce that down again by letting more people out of jail.
Every time you say by just letting more people out of jail, it's like, oh, that one stings. Okay, look, well, what is the cost to getting a new jail facility? Like, what are you guys looking at, and what do you think it'll do for property taxes?
So we've been looking at this, and we're still working on the numbers, but we started planning for this in in January of 24. And so we've been working on planning for this for quite a long time. And some of those initial estimates from some architects were really high. But since then, I've started looking at steel cell jails. They're built back in Georgia, and they come out. It's not a steel jail, but the cells are steel. In the way that they're built and put in, it really reduces a lot of labor. And it really seems like it might cut half of what was estimated originally down. We're still working on the numbers. It might be something in the $40 million mark for like 230 bed jail. The thing that I'm looking for, though, is that, the bond that we're going to be asking citizens to support is it's going to be like a 20-year bond or so. And when you look at it, you need that jail facility to last for those 20 years. But that's long past the time that I'm going to be in office here. But what I'm trying to look for is I want the jail facility to be on a piece of ground and be built so that they could easily just add on another 230 beds. And that way, that initial investment that we're putting in there today, we can double that size without having to put the same kind of investment again. You do that by overbuilding like your intake area, your kitchen area, your laundry services, your medical area.
Gotcha.
And you build it for like a 460, 500 bed facility. You build half of that today, and then 20 years down the road, we build the other half. And just putting in the cells will be a lot cheaper than putting in all of those other services. And that'll help make the burden for the next section less, and it'll be planned in so it would make sense. The current jail we have now wasn't planned with growth in mind. There's not really a place where we can really add on and expand that current facility, nor is the land that we have available large enough to do that.
Plus, I mean, the superintendent from Middleton, Markey, had a really, really great line. I had a conversation with him regarding Middleton's school bond. And he said, look, we've all drunk from wells we didn't dig. And that really gave me a pause. I'm like, damn, man, that's a really good point. We've all benefited from someone in like the 70s passing a bond and footing the bill. And now we have the benefit of whatever that asset may be a school system or a jail system. But, the current people living in your county are benefiting from a jail that other people paid for, right? And that's not saying that people are wrong, right? Like, it's not that you're a bad person for benefiting from the jail that someone else paid for in like the 70s and 80s. Fine, great, whatever. But at some point also, it's like, all right, it's our turn to dig the well, right? Because we need it, and it's not inappropriate to say I should participate in funding the thing that I benefit from, right? But we've also all benefited from things that other people have paid for, right? And like, that's kind of what you're talking about, which is, look, this is the heavy lift right now. And in 20 years or in 30 years, if they need to expand, we're planning ahead for that Payette community, which could be your kids, could be your grandkids, could be anybody. But the bottom line is, like, you've stripped down cost, and you do need this facility no matter what.
Yeah. And that's really the crux of it, is that we just need a new facility. I mean, besides like the population issue we've been talking about, is that the infrastructure of the jail is just collapsing and failing. And so, like, it's not just the people, but like we're not meeting standards. We've failed the jail inspection 3 years now, and this next year will be the 4th year. I mean, it's going to happen again.
Wait, when you say you failed the jail inspection, what does that mean? Who comes out and inspects it?
The Idaho Sheriff's Association comes out and inspects it annually, and they have a list of criteria. It's published and well known, and we know what those standards are. And they come out and inspect our jail, but we've failed it now 3 years in a row. We'll fail it again next year. We're failing it because we're overpopulated, but we're also failing it because the 72 version of the jail doesn't meet standards. And we can't really bring it up to standards without just tearing it down and rebuilding it. Like we'll get somebody in there in a wheelchair, but the halls are so narrow that we can't push the wheelchair through the hallways.
I was just going to say, hallways are that classic thing where it's like, no. There's no way to expand a hallway. Like, you have walls on each side. You can't do anything about that.
Yeah, so we just pack those people through the jail, like to their cell.
What do you mean pack them? Like, you carry them?
Carry them. I mean, they can't walk, and their wheelchair won't go through the hallway. So we just, a couple deputies pick them up and carry them to where they're going. The cells all have to have natural light into them, but these cells are built with like brick walls. And then there's a cement lid on top of that, a cement roof, and that's below the cement roof that you actually see out on the building. And there's no easy way. There's a way, but it costs money. But there's no easy way to get natural light into every cell, And then you start looking at like the plumbing. The plumbing in the 70s for the fixtures is different than the plumbing now. The toilets we have in our cells now require power, because you can control how many times they flush, how much water it uses. It keeps them from flushing things that shouldn't be being flushed. But in the 70s, they didn't have power to toilets. It was just a toilet. And so even trying to get replacement parts to keep the 1972 version portion of our jail open, it's hard to get parts because they're not compatible anymore.
So is there any consequence to failing the jail inspection? Like,
Well, it's a risk and a liability is what it is. And
man,
we try to manage that as well as we can, but the reality is that we need to get it replaced, and we need to get a new facility that meets all the standards, get a new facility that really serves our community well. And we have people moving into our community, and some of them moving out of places like Oregon into Idaho because they like the laws we have in Idaho, and they like our tough on crime stance that we have here in Idaho. And they expect that kind of service because we have the laws to do that. And we really need a facility that allows us to do the things that the law allows us to do, allows the judges to impose punishments that are appropriate. I mean, one of the things we've cut out early in my career, we had work release, and work release was a great way for people with low level, like misdemeanors, to have a punishment, but not impede on their ability to work. People need to work, and if they're going to get better and if they're going to fix problems in their life, they need to work, they need to have income, and they need to be supporting their families. But if you put them in jail, then they often lose their employment because they can't be employed and be in jail. And our judges would really like for us to be able to have work release as a sentence that they can impose on some of these lower level people that need some kind of a jail time, but they don't want them to lose their jobs. But we don't have room for that. We don't have a place for that. Like, we're not holding people with crimes that would qualify for work release. And so, like, there's no room in the jail for them currently. There's things that we could do, like jails are offering programming now. Back 20 years ago, programming in a county jail was something that was not heard of. But nowadays, jails are offering like GEDs and stuff that. Where inmates that wanted to take and put some effort forward and improve their ability and help them when they get out so they don't come back again. The jails are offering programs now, and there's lots of services that would like to come in and do programming in our jail, but we don't have a place for them to do it. The only place we have for them to do it is in the cafeteria, and the cafeteria is right in the central of the jail, and so people are moving through that all the time, and so we can't have anybody doing programming during the middle of the day. They could come in the evening time, but we have to really schedule that out because there's only one space. And a lot of these people work during the daytime. They don't want to come in and do their programming at night.
Man, I recently had Bree Derrick on, who is the director of Idaho Department of Corrections. And in talking to her and a lot of other people about this in recent times, it's really clear that it's kind of like, look, you don't land up in jail or in prison because you have a wide range of skill sets and offerings that you can exchange with the world, right? Like, and I have said this a gajillion times. It's like, how many people with PhDs in computer science do you think end up opting for prostitution? Well, probably none ever. Because the bottom line is, like, if you have a PhD in computer science, you don't have to become a prostitute to pay your bills, right? You also likely don't go into drug trafficking, right? You have other things to offer the world. And so at least part of the problem, not the whole problem, at least part of the problem with the population in that is in corrections or in jail, it's like, look, you were not offering the world the appropriate things. You didn't have the right, and again, there are a gajillion reasons, right? It could be, trauma from childhood. Like, I'm not downplaying that, but bottom line is you need people to be able to leave jail and have something better to offer, right? You hopefully they have different populations to hang out with. They can get their life in order, but part of getting their life in order is, again, like, I can get a job, I can integrate into society in a socially acceptable way, right? And yeah, humble beginnings, find whatever those beginnings might be, but you figure out a way. It's like, okay, now I have this thing that I can do, so I never have to go back to robbing people, or I never have to go back to trafficking or drug trafficking, human trafficking, whatever it might be. That's a really important thing. And the sentiment that I think a lot of people have, which is, these are criminals, they, bread, water, and, they can sleep on the floor. First off, that's only going to make their reliance on antisocial behavior probably more pronounced, right? You're not going to be helping them integrate back into society. Be that as it may, how about the problem that when people come to jail in pretrial, they are innocent until proven guilty. And I'm sure that the Payette County Sheriff and the police departments in the area do a very good job of not arresting people inappropriately. But there's at least some portion of the population that likely it's like, okay, no, I wasn't convicted of the thing I was charged with, right? And there, you just can't treat people horribly just because they got arrested, right? That's not part of our social agreement. You don't get to essentially torture people with and dehumanize them because they're being held to see a judge. And those are big things where it's like, look, man, if we want to continue compounding the problem of prison populations, let's make it terrible for them, right? Bree was saying that just like, I think they have like roughly 10,000 people in the state of Idaho in corrections. It's like, okay, and we're going to get another 10,000, let's say in the next 10 years. But if we have the original 10,000 that went out and there's a high probability that they're going to come back, now we're going to have like 17 or 18,000 people. And then another 10 years from then, we'll have, 30,000 people, whatever it might be. We need to do something and have things in place so that people leave the corrections and jail system and don't come back at a higher percentage, right? Be that 50%, 60%. So whatever it is, we need to decrease the recidivism because we're going to have exponential growth eventually. And that all comes from helping people orient more properly with society.
Yeah, and I think that's really a good point. Like the jails that, like the jail that we have built, it wasn't built with these things in mind. And it was like there's punishment for crime, and that's what that jail's for. But the reality is that we need to build larger, we need more facilities, not just at my county, but statewide. Even the IDOC is having a hard time really housing all of the people that are sentenced that should be in their facilities. As we keep growing in population, we need to keep expanding the number of beds we have available in a county jail and on the state prison system. But that alone is not the answer. And so, if we want to take and help these people to try to have them be successful in society so that they're not continuing to violate crimes, then when they are in custody, that's like the time that we have an opportunity to make a difference. And certainly some people, they're not ready to accept an opportunity to change the way that they're living. But there are people that are. And when they're in custody, it would be good to be able to offer some kind of programs that could help them get a GED. I mean, if they don't have a diploma or GED, that right there just eliminates so many jobs that they can apply for. It eliminates so many opportunities where they could at least do something legitimately. And so, if there's ways that we could offer GED work, if we could offer some, alcohol or drug addiction type of programs, if we could offer some like anger management, some parenting type classes, so that when they get out of jail, they can try to reintegrate back into society, and they can do things that are not violating the law, and not bringing them back again to our facility, because we can't just keep housing these same people. It's just the problems are just going to keep getting worse if we don't do any better at trying to help people out and to keep them from returning.
Man, it's crazy. People don't want to spend money on programs. They're like, nah, we don't want to do that because we don't want to spend any money on, criminals. It's like, but you're gonna be spending the money if they come back. What is it? It's like $60,000 a year or something per inmate to house somebody annually.
Yeah, for me, it costs about $78 to $80 a day per inmate to house them, and so that adds up quickly. That's a lot of money that we're putting into each and every inmate that's in my jail facility.
Man, that's a lot of money. Sheriff Creech, I appreciate you. We've talked about a lot of different things as they relate to the jail. Is there anything we've missed?
Well, I just want to put out there right now that we're still working on putting together the final numbers on what the jail is going to cost and what that actual impact is going to be for each individual citizen in our county. And there's a survey that have out there, and we haven't done a final tally on the survey. There's some initial results on that survey, but we're really pushing every citizen to get out there and fill out this survey. It's on our website, right on the main website at payettecounty.org. There's a screen right at the top. It'll come out and say jail planning. Click on that and go to that page. On the bottom, there's a link that goes to the survey. There's also a video tour of the jail facility. There's some information that's been compiled over the last year and a half, but we really want people to get out there and fill out that survey and give us your opinion. And we're using that to help gauge what we're going to be doing.
I have great sympathy for people that move here from like the state that shall not be named, because I did. And I understand a lot of what drove them here. Not for everyone, but a lot of people. And I also think I understand the concept of skyrocketing property taxes or property taxes. You're like, this seems insane. Like, how can people pay this much money? I get that. What I also know is that in the absence of people taking responsibility for maintaining the incredible community we moved to, it will not be incredible forever, right? Like, failing to plan appropriately in my former state is what led to a lot of the problems that drove me out of that state. People, using funds inappropriately or, just getting behind the eight ball, or ridiculous policies that were letting people out early. It's like, that's what drove a lot of people out of that state. And I really hope that doesn't happen to this state as well, right? And things like this, like, look, you like law and order? That's great. When I arrest somebody, I have to have somewhere to put them, unless you want me to arrest them and then release them the next day, because that's literally things that are happening in, states that people are moving from. And now it's happening here because there aren't enough people willing to pay the money required to have effective law and order and execution of law and order, right? That's the big thing. So, man, I hope more people participate, and I hope you can figure something out with your community to make sure you keep it the place it's been forever.
Me too. I know our community is really behind law enforcement. They're behind community safety, and I know that these are strong tenets that people in my community support. And so I'm just really looking for people's support. I'm really looking for people to express their opinion. It does me no good to bring anything on the ballot and then have it fail. Because it's not what people are willing to support. And so we're just really trying to reach out now and get people to fill out that survey. Let us know what you think. And then that way, when we bring something on the ballot, it's something that we know that people are going to be like, yeah, I support this.
Right. And this is going to be on the November ballot, correct?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sheriff, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you, and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.